Hey, everybody, and welcome back again to the Loud Thumbs limited series. We are still going with the Halo television show. Episode 6, called Solace, is been on this week, so that's going to be the episode we're talking about. And another heavy story-driven episode, right, Heather? You didn't get a lot of your action.
Nope.
Almost zero again, right?
Yep.
Okay. So it is very much a full circle for Halo, right? It's we're back at episode 2 with a lot of story stuff.
We're on that roller coaster.
It's what happened. Okay, is we went from episode 1, which had lots of action, to episode 2 with lots of story, and then we had trickles of kind of both, but not enough action for a couple episodes. And now we have done the same thing because episode 5 ended with a pretty nice ending of tons of Halo video game action on screen. And now we're back into episode 6 with a lot more story again. I mean, it's kind of a new trope that they're doing here lately. Every episode starts with a flashback, guys. Starts with a flashback. So this one was more of, it was at least shorter. It was just Chief remembering his first interaction with Halsey after knowing now what he knows from episode 5 with her background, stealing him from his parents and everything. Am I right or wrong on that? With like, they're all starting with a flashback. They've all done it.
I'm pretty sure they've all started with a flashback, or at least majority of them have.
Yeah.
Episode 1 didn't, but I'm pretty sure from then on it's been. Yeah. It's either started with or it's had a flashback in the episode.
Oh yeah, they're all
tons of flashbacks.
Yeah, they're all over in the episode. But he kind of comes out of the memory that he's having, and when Kai, who he had saved at the end of episode 5, kind of grabs his arm. And it jolts him out of this lost in his own mind sort of situation. And they have to give her 5 shots of morphine or something, whatever the case is they're giving her to get her to stop feeling all the pain that she's going through. Being a Spartan, I'm sure she takes a lot more dosage than a normal human.
Oh, I'm sure.
Probably would have killed anybody else.
Probably.
But it got kind of intense in that point, because, the other 2 Spartans, Risen and Vanek, are trying to help her, while Chief is just kind of sitting there while she's got a hold of Chief's arm, which is kind of what woke him from his whole deal. And then we see that Mackie, right? Or McKee. Because she finally says it in this episode. So we know now in English, without just reading a subtitle and hearing it one time in episode 4, I believe, it is McKee. She is now seen, Chief sees her. She's in another room, and she's having a dream or something. I couldn't tell in that scene when she was laying there, supposedly asleep, because she's kind of faking and lying about everything right now.
Yeah.
What was she asleep? Just talking in her sleep? Was she praying? What was she doing? Because she was talking in the Sangili.
I think she was praying.
Okay, because to me it didn't seem like she was asleep.
Yeah. No, I think she was praying.
So they clearly know that she can speak Sangili, which is the alien race's language, the elites and the prophets and everyone. But I don't know, that scene didn't do anything for me. It was just kind of okay, he's kind of watching her. She's there with a nurse beside her, and they're kind of checking her over and whatnot. And then they put her into a room on her own with Chief there. Comes and visits later, right? In between those 2 pieces, that's where we get the conversation with the Admiral, right? The Admiral's talking.
Basically they need a fall guy.
Yes, they had the fall guy situation. But even before that, there was the scene with they're projecting themselves into that room with Halsey, right? And you had the scientist guy sitting there and Halsey sitting there, who are real people.
Yeah.
They're actual physical, touchable bodies, right?
Halsey's being interrogated, kind of.
Yeah, they were kind of interrogating Halsey, but it was so weird why they did it the way they did it. I guess it served one purpose, because what they did was they had Captain Keyes and they had the Admiral in another room with this hockey puck on their head, this like small hockey puck, and they're projecting themselves into, but it was never told to the audience if the people in the room could see them until later. So it was, did Halsey know they were there? Did the guy know he was there? It was almost like the behind the mirror, like in an interrogation room, we know now.
Two-way mirror.
Like, it was like the two-way mirror situation, but it's very digitized. Mm-hmm. I didn't like it. Did you like that?
No.
I would rather have been standing behind a mirror. Like you're going to know somebody has
a window.
But you would think, 700 years into the future, you're going to know somebody's going to be able to access that room and see what you're telling them,
Halsey has to assume that they were listening.
She's way too smart to not know that somebody else is listening into this. But beyond that, the doors kind of pop open and Chief's like, I need the room.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew then, like, okay, nobody else can see these projections. They're just showing them to us, basically, which was just sort of dumb, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about that part?
I mean, I guess it was just a way for you to know, like, that they were listening to her.
But why project them? Why not just have them sitting in a room listening to a speaker?
I have thoughts. We'll just go over our overview.
Oh, your thoughts are going to come later?
I didn't care for the episode.
Oh, well, that's fine if you want to say that now. It's totally up to you. But I'm talking about this right now.
Yeah, they could have done it a different way and it probably would have made more sense. Like a two-way mirror would have made more sense.
Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Or set them down at a speaker that is allowing them to hear in, because no one could see them. They could see each other. The projections could see each other, but that was it. And then at one point, Miranda, after Chief takes the room and kicks the scientist guy out and he starts interrogating Halsey, Miranda comes in and does the same thing. She is now projecting herself in. So the other two projections, which are the Admiral and Captain Keyes, can see her. But that's it. Those three can see each other. And then Chief and Halsey can see each other. That's it. And it was just weird. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why they did it that way. I think they felt like they had to do something that was like sci-fi. High-tech. Hypertech, hi-fi, or sci-fi hypertech or something, to show something new. Like it's not just still the same old interrogating room 700 years later, right? But it was still like, I didn't like it. Like they didn't do a good job explaining to all of us what was happening.
Yeah.
So that I thought was kind of poor. So he does interrogate Halsey. I loved that part because that part was canon. It really made me realize and give a little bit more hope that we're going to see more actual Halo canon stuff in the show, that they've taken some liberties. We already know that, many liberties, right? Not just some.
Yeah.
But
many liberties.
This, they did not. It was very one-to-one with the books and everything. I mean, we had friends over this last weekend and we were talking about Halo and it was, books versus games versus TV show. And this felt like kind of a combination of all of them. So I was like, okay, good. Because it was, he finds out that he was taken by Halsey. Halsey replaced him with a Flash clone that over a few months, became ill and eventually died from what in the books was, I believe, cancer is what they really chalked it up to. This was more of like a undiagnosable disorder of some kind, they said. So it still works, still fits, matches the canon more or less. You're not really taking any liberties there. You're just kind of, changing a couple words. But I liked it because it made connection between Halsey and Chief, and you can get an idea of why he's so upset now, that she trusted him enough to tell him the truth. She wasn't still backstabbing or doing anything stupid. That they just keep dragging things on, I guess. And I was happy to see a finalization, like just own it, go with it, explain that you did everything for this situation with Chief and all the other Spartans to save humanity, to increase our species, because our species, in her opinion, is not growing fast enough. We're not evolving quickly enough.
Not able to evolve.
So as far as that whole interrogation scene between the two of them, what were your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm glad that he has the answers now. Like he knows exactly what happened. I don't know. They're just not moving fast enough for me.
All right, guys, you can tell where Heather's at. Okay, I'm not with Heather. I actually did like this episode. So if we're gonna cut to the chase here, I liked it because it gave me a bunch of things I needed, and I think it did the best storytelling that it could have done as of so far. Like, it told a story that kept me interested the entire time. That hasn't happened yet in the show. So it finally happened. It took 6 episodes, which is far too long. That is double what I give any other show to get me interested.
And I think that's part of it for me. Like, it's taken so long to get anything to move somewhat forward. I'm kind of like, are we moving forward? You know what I mean? I'm a little jaded about it. Like,
yeah, I get that.
We've had so many episodes where we're like, okay. And it's just been round and around and around and around.
But see, like, that's the difference between the two of us, because you sort of dwell more on that, and I'm still looking forward to the hope that I might have. Like, I have that optimistic. I mean,
after the last 2 minutes, like, I have hope for the next episode, but why did it take till the last 2 minutes of
I don't know, but see, that's the whole thing about it. Like, it's just like other movies. Like, we could compare a bunch of other movies, but like, eventually, why did they make 2 really terrible Batman movies? In the middle of Batman and Batman Returns, why did they make 2 terrible in the middle? And then why did it take like 10 years to finally get to Batman Begins, which was a good movie? So there's that whole thing too. And look forward to some of our Batman stuff coming up in the future here, guys.
Yeah.
But for me, like, I don't dwell on that part of it. Like, I just want to see it continue to get better. And that's what I felt. I felt that finally somebody, which I don't know who directed this one or particular who wrote it. That's not my thing. I don't do that. But it was finally like somebody knows how to tell a story. Somebody pulled, and maybe it's because they pulled so much canon directly from Halo that they didn't have to tell a huge difference of story. It was already there for them. So they just went, let's just do Halo this episode. Let's actually make it Halo. They took liberties with other things with McKee and the artifacts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
he was not in his suit at all. I take that back. He was in his suit at the very beginning of the episode, and it was like covered in blood. And then he was never in his suit again.
Yeah.
No armor, no helmet, nothing. Like,
you're going to have to put up with it.
Master Chief.
I was so happy with the end of 5. And I see, and I've been saying this as the podcast continues, I see what they're doing. And a lot of it I have not liked. That's just the truth. But I am the type of guy who is always looking forward. Like, okay, next episode, we're going to have something. Could I have still written it better? In my mind, yes. I still feel like I could have already had people on board episode 1, and halfway into episode 2, they'd have been like, love it. I'm never going to miss an episode. I am on board. I know I could have done that. But I think all Halo fans would say that because it is so different from Halo. So they're taking this huge amount of time to establish 2 characters. We have now found that out. Those 2 characters, surprise, surprise, are McKee and John. Hello.
Which I feel like they were established before.
But they weren't established yet.
Like, I mean, I understand, we now know the connection between them or know there is a connection between them. We maybe don't know.
Not to the severity you see in this episode.
That's what I'm saying. We know now after this episode.
Yes, but you said you felt like that they were already established. They weren't, because we didn't know what the connection was. We didn't know anything other than the fact that they both were called the Blessed One. They both had this thing.
But technically, if you think about it, we don't know why. We still don't know why they're
correct.
Like
that's still got to be part of the hook. That's what I'm saying. Like, the end of this episode, and we'll get to it. We'll go through it a little bit here, but it did that. It did what it needed to do for people who are enjoying the show, who have never seen Halo, and for people who have played Halo, love Halo, and want more of the TV show to see where it's going to go. It took those 2 groups of people and put them together now. Like, you're giving me Halo, you're giving me the TV show. They're different enough. And you did nothing but storytelling this episode. Nothing but it. Like, there really was no action at all. 100%, another episode with no action. But they told a story. This would be like watching a movie and you're at that point of the movie where it's trying to transition from them like losing their powers to getting their powers back, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of where like I fall in this episode. But you're enjoying watching them get to their powers, okay? Now, speaking of that, and we're going to kind of gloss over some things. We're not going to go super detailed into every piece of the episode, but kind of the big bullet points was the next one with McKee and Chief. They meet in her like room, I guess, you know, like in a doctor's bay or something. And, you know, she's in this room and they have a conversation and she's explaining that she's called the Blessed One. Chief has flashbacks to episode 2, or little memory thoughts that pop in there of the, I don't remember the guy that was kind of like mentally crazy who had been abducted by the Covenant.
Oh yeah. He was on that one.
He was on the stone planet with Soren, and he is saying the same thing, or had said the same things that McKee is saying. And Chief is like having these quick flips in his head, putting the pieces together. And he knows that some of what she's saying is truthful and some of what she's saying is not. And she wants to get to the artifact, like both of them. Like she says, take me there and all this kind of stuff. And thank God they didn't make Chief an idiot, at least in this episode, because I was very clearly upset at the very beginning. Like if they let him like just hand it over to her, you know, I'm going to be so pissed because that's stupid.
Not him.
That's not what he would do. That's not following protocol or anything. No. And even the military officer at the door was like, no, you know,
the Covenant doesn't take prisoners.
Covenant doesn't take prisoners. Yeah. She's part of them, you know, no, you count on it or something like that's what he said. And I'm like, see, he already knows the answer. So they didn't at least do that. They kept Chief with like a brain in his skull. And he was like, you know, she wants to get to the artifact, and he's telling Miranda all this later. He's like, there's no way I'm letting her do that. She's not even going to get close to it. And sort of that kind of part of the episode, and that everything kind of happening really quickly, because some stuff happened pretty fast. Mm-hmm. He kind of breaks up with Cortana. He's like, get out of my head. You're done. He's like, I will get you out if I have to. And she's like, I would, you know, highly suggest not doing that because it could kill you. And he was like, basically, I don't give a shit. Like you're done. I'm done with you. Yeah, get out of here. And that's one of the points of the show that I really, really liked, which was when he blocks Halsey off in her office. He basically locks her in, and he turns on like a fail-safe system that can't recognize there's anyone in the room. And there's like a glitch in the system from a scientist who built everything. And Chief knows all of these things. And
it was like this science experiment that the guy tried to do, like UV cleansing, basically. Yeah. And there's this like countdown of like, because he's doing the same thing to, you know, Dr. Halsey, like he's basically doing the science experiment on her.
Right, exactly. So he locks her in the room, and there's like a 60-second countdown. And when it hits 0, she's going to get flashed with radiation, and then she'll die. Like, I mean, it's just that simple. And Cortana's like, you know, you can't do this. You can't do this. And he's testing Cortana. You know, he's like, well, then shut me down. You know, you did it already. She's like, I can't. I can only do X, Y, and Z. You know, I can't do all of it. And he's like, well, I guess we'll find out. And he lets the count get to 0. He opens the door and he pulls Halsey out and slams the door back closed. And he's like, we're not okay here. I was just testing your AI's, you know, overall like control. And so he now knows that like Cortana can't shut him like completely down, can't kill him or stop him.
Can't make him do things.
Yeah, can't control him. Yeah. You know, is kind of the
deal. She can shut him down, but she can't.
Yeah, she couldn't force his hand to open the door or shut the thing off or anything like that. So mentally and whatnot, like we saw in the previous episode, he can be shut down synapsis wise, which is just he turns into a zombie. You know, he's just in a coma.
He passes out.
Yeah, but other than that, you know, that's all she can do. So he needed that answer and he got it. And then he, you know, like I said earlier, he breaks up with Cortana at that point. And Halsey and the Admiral, we kind of skimmed over real quick. They kind of have a back and forth then later. And the Admiral was like, hey, you're kind of fired, but at the same time, I'm going to let you work off of Reach at a like undisclosed lab.
Basically, you don't rat me out. You'll get what you want. I get what I want. And we're promoting someone else to take over your
because
lab.
They needed a scapegoat. The UNSC needed a scapegoat. They're basically using Halsey as the scapegoat. Like, see you later, Halsey. You're out of here. But Halsey's still going to be able to continue to do everything she's been doing, but she won't be doing it on Reach.
Right.
So we'll see where that goes. That has me intrigued as well. Another thing about this episode I liked, I'm like, okay, cool. Because if you've played the video game Reach, she's on Reach in Reach. So will she actually go to another planet? Who knows? But I like the idea and the thought process of that being different, like her going someplace else and something cooler or newer happening maybe. Because the fact that she's on Reach or not on Reach doesn't make a huge difference to me. What she's doing, it makes a huge difference to me. I still feel like, I mean, clearly we saw they did turn her into a bad guy for the UNFC officers, the main, commissioners and whatnot, so that they had a scapegoat. But I still kind of feel like they're trying to make her a bad guy overall. I just think they tamed it down this episode. I think they showed more good of her this episode than they did in previous ones where they've made her evil, evil, right?
Feel bad. Yeah, feel like a bad guy.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts then on that, like that whole point of it, like, him testing and breaking up with Cortana and then seeing what happens to Halsey afterwards with,
it's kind of expected when he found out exactly what she had done. So I knew he was going to be ticked off and not want anything to do with her, which is another reason they're like exiling her, I guess, because it will make John happy. Yeah, I figured he would be mad and then something would happen, because I knew from the games that Dr. Halsey isn't the one who's kind of like in charge of the Spartans. It was Miranda Halsey. So I knew eventually something was going to have to happen, but I knew she does, at least in the games, she's still there. She's alive.
Yeah.
Dr. Halsey. So Miranda at some point I knew had to take over. So this was just kind of, how they set it up.
Yeah. I mean, eventually they had to do it some way, you would think, unless they're going to really take a lot more liberties and get again with everything. But I liked how they did it. I liked how it was kind of quickly done. It was easily explained. You could understand it. There's been stuff in the show that have been like, what the hell? Like you kind of lose what they're trying to do until like later. And then you're like, oh, and then you got to think back about it. So that's what I mean about the writing. And then the overall, part of the show or this whole episode, it just felt like somebody kind of knew what they were doing more so than previous.
It wasn't drug out. I will say that.
Yeah.
Like,
this episode did not feel like, God, is it fucking over? Like, I know Heather over here dwelling that he wasn't in his suit the whole time and I'm not, is a little backwards, because I'm a huge fan of Chief. And yeah, I want to see him looking badass and stuff all the time. But I think I've reached a point now, knowing in the show, I'm not going to get that. Like, I just think I now know, like, that it's like when I started, I'm not going to see what I see in the video game on the show. And I now know I'm going to see a lot of not in suit Chief. You know what I mean? I mean, he's going to be de-armored a lot of the time. And that's because honestly, and you'll have to agree with this, Heather, in the game, Chief isn't kind of walking around like Mass Effect style, like you would with, Commander Shepard interacting with his crew. Chief is like, let's get shit done, guys. Like, I'm jumping off of a ship and landing on Earth, and from that point, you're going to wake me up and I'm going to go fight Covenant. Like, all I do is fight Covenant the entire game. And his
story is still told.
There is a story told, but the story is told on Halo. And we haven't got to that point yet. So, like, what I'm trying to say is, for you, if I'm trying to help you or anybody else out there listening, we haven't got to Halo yet. So as much as I'm frustrated and wish that we had got to Halo episode 3, we're not getting there. I still feel like that we're not going to actually physically be on a Halo until next season. That is just me. I have already set that expectation in my head. You have to understand that we are building a world right now because they don't think anybody has seen Halo. That's how they started this whole show. Like, pretend like no one's ever watched Halo. Let's make a show called Halo and use some pieces. Okay, that's it. And it doesn't make sense to have Master Chief in full garb armor, walking around from room to room, talking to people, trying to get answers with the story they're trying to tell. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't work. So like for anyone out there listening too, like, you're just going to have to just accept that until we do get to the point where he's on a Halo. And then you're going to find me destroying and tearing apart episodes when he is in a Warthog, no armor, going place to place, but we have to see his face or no helmet or whatever on Halo. Be like, no, at any point in time on Halo, you're going to become in a battle. Like you're constantly being fought. So you need to be in armor. And they have done that so far in the show. If you think about it, anytime Covenant has been around, he has been in his armor. He has been ready to fight every time. Last episode, he did some badass shit. He was in armor, ready to fight. But when he's not in battle, he's not in armor. I accept it. I don't have to be a fan of it, but I do accept it because I think it makes more sense this way. I think it would just kind of be laughable if you just had him clomping around in this big ass armor with his helmet on all the time, talking to McKee about the artifact while trying to understand what he's going through. Like they've done the best job they could do trying to please whoever they are trying to please.
Whoever decided this was the story they wanted to tell, I guess. I don't see, like, it is different. And I understand they're trying to build a world, but I don't think it needed to take a whole season. It's going to. That's my prediction right now. Like, the first episode was great. Like, you see them, they come out, they fight, whatever. Like, you could have summed it all up in about an episode, and then we could be on a Halo right now. Oh, I already said, like, I could have made the show. I know. Episode 3, we're on a Halo ready to roll. I understand what they're trying to do and where they're trying to go with it. Do I like it? Not a whole bunch. Oh, we can tell. Like, I want to like it. I like watching you play Halo, and I like the story that the games tell. Like, why could we not do that? Because of what I said, episode 1. They're not going to do 1-for-1 from the video game because... I mean, I'm not asking 1-for-1, but why are we taking a whole season to get on a Halo when that's the name of the show? Halo. I don't know. Master Chief show. I don't know. And it's because like I work when you work in customer service, so do I. Yes. And guys, I don't try to figure people out no more because it's too hard. That's the hardest part of my job. So I just quit doing it. I retired from that part of my job. So I have done the same thing with Halo as of this episode. I have retired from trying to figure out what they're going to do and why they did what they've done. And I'm just going to see where it goes. And like, that's it. It's going to take me another episode or so to be in the same place. Like, I always have that little extra where I'm like, okay, I'm going to give another chance. Like, we're going to figure this out. We're going to see what they're trying to do. Maybe, but I got an idea. I don't know. Maybe the person that has written Halo, the TV show, works for like UPS because they'll take a package and they'll ship it from Florida. And then instead of it coming to Indiana, it goes to Michigan, which is above Indiana. Or Illinois and then Michigan. Then it goes to Ohio. Then it goes to Illinois. And then it comes back over to Indiana, right? Yeah. So that's kind of what it is. Like we're taking the long way around. Like we're not really going in any order. We're taking the scenic route, and it's not very scenic. Yeah, there's not a lot to see in this route. There's just a lot to learn. So they need the time to make you learn it. I think that they needed to spend some time with the people who, like, because you made the point of, like, he can't be clumping around in his suit all the time. Like, it would be laughable. It would be. But it's not. No, it would be laughable. Mandalorian, like, it's different. I don't think it's different. Both of those characters always have their helmets on. Like, but no, see, the difference is I said in the story they're trying to tell, that's where I ended that statement. Yeah. Like in the story they're trying to tell, having him clomp around in his suit and never see his face. It would have been more entertaining. It would be laughable. They would have got laughed off of television and they would have got terrible. Oh. They wouldn't have got picked up for a second season. There's no way. The Mandalorian, it's part of his religion. So it's built into the story. So you know why he doesn't take it off. That's number one. We cannot argue that. We cannot argue that. But as a spectator of the video games and watching the stories on the games, and Chief never takes his helmet off. Like, to me, it was because that's just part of the Spartan way. It was never explained. If there's lore of it, it's in books that I haven't read. So I only know that he felt better with his armor on and he hated taking it off. I do know that. That was just like a personal preference of his, but there was nothing else other than that. And they've just thrown that away. Like, you know what? He's got to be able to take it off and he's got to be able to talk and he's got to be able to communicate. And
we'll see. I mean,
I will say this right now. I will be very disappointed if by the end of the season, he and Cortana are not like linked. Like,
oh, they'll be back together. Yeah. They got 3 more episodes. They'll be back together.
They better.
Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind that I'm going to state right now, I see no doubt that this season ends with Cortana with Chief on the Pillar of Autumn at Halo. There
better be some fighting.
They've not landed, and either they have not landed on Halo or they have just landed on Halo. And the episode ends with him walking out of the crashed Pelican, looks out, and you see like almost a 1-for-1 Halo from the very first Combat Evolved, where he walks out the back of the Pelican after everybody else is dead. And it's just him now alone, having to save everybody else on the Halo and figure this whole thing out. That's where I think the season ends. And it's going to make a lot of people mad. And I'm just going to be expecting it. So I'm going to be like, told you so.
So do you not think there's going to be any more like fighting
in this season?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I think there will be. But I think it's going to be on Reach, because that has to happen. Because Reach has not been glassed yet. And Reach gets glassed way before, well, not way before, but a couple of years before Halo. So either they glass Reach in the end of the season this year, or they land on Halo somehow and Reach is still alive and kicking because they kind of throw the timeline out, however they want to do the timeline, which would make sense why you would see Halsey on a different planet. You know, Halsey survives because she's not on Reach, and Reach gets glassed. Because that's one thing I want to talk about real quick too, before we get into some the deeper things, is there's actually a point where McKee tells them where to find the prophets and everybody, even this like this special holy place that they go to. It was like Asafin or something like that's what they called it. And they check it out and there's nothing there. And Commander Keyes says, you might as well just be staring into a black hole. A black hole is usually an exploded star, or maybe there's no planet there. So it makes me wonder if what she's talking about is a lie and she knows it, but the thing that was there was a planet and they glassed it already. It's gone. So they already have the ability to glass a planet, the Covenant. And the next planet they are going to glass is going to be Reach, because we've kind of heard a little glimpse possibly as that planet's not there. It's like staring into a black hole. Makes me wonder if that is a potential.
Do you think maybe they'll come back because McKee is there? And like they'll know.
I think what we're going to talk about here with the artifacts is what's going to call the Covenant back to Reach. And yeah, it's going to be on. Like there's going to be a war on Reach, and Chief Cortana and Pillar of Autumn are out of there with Miranda and Captain Keyes, and it's going to end where they know where Halo is, and they get to Halo, they land, and they're done. That kind of thing. Because Cortana doesn't know that there's a Halo at this point, right? And let's just get into it. We're going to wrap up the last 10 minutes here or so with this. Cortana is broken up with Chief, or Chief broke up with her, and she actually makes her way into this I don't know, some kind of sanctum, not really a prison that they put Dr. Halsey in. She makes her way into that and finds Dr. Halsey and starts kind of communicating with her.
Through the firewalls.
She breaks through the firewall, pinhole in it.
Pinhole.
Andon or whatever. Aiden, whatever. I hate how they spell his name.
There's no pinhole.
There's no pinhole. And then, whatever. There's a whole thing back and forth between them. And then you find out that Chief is he talks to Miranda, tells Miranda that, and McKee says she has the same ability, wants to be tested. So they test their blood and they show an overlap of DNA that's identical, both in Chief and McKee. She's like, basically, you're 2 in a billion. And then Chief's like, I got to know. She says, McKee says that this artifact is killing him. And she explains what happened to her and how she's, he saw all these visions and And he's like, how could you know that? And she says, I told you we're the same person. And he's now determined to go figure out what's happening. So he goes in, gets a little probes put on himself. Miranda hacks into is testing all this on him. And Commander Keyes, I'm getting everybody mixed up. Halsey is hacked in with Cortana and looking at the stats, all of Chief's, medical stuff. So his heartbeat and everything. And he grabs it and he starts having like this crazy, his heartbeat goes from like 30 beats per minute to like 170 or something. And at the same time this happens, McKee's been trying to tell this woman that's trying to feed her, like, you just need to eat, that something bad's going to happen. You need to get me to Chief. You need to at least call him, And she like throws a little finger blade out that comes out of her nail, which she's getting ready to attack this woman, and Chief grabs it. And then McKee goes into like a convulsion, into some sort of seizure. So she's kind of doing the same thing. They're connected thing, right? Mm-hmm. Chief hangs on. His heartbeat's like skyrocketing. Aiden tells Halsey that, he's dying. And I'm like sitting there watching. I'm like, just let it finish. I'm so sick of just the constant touch it for a little bit. Something happens. And then we keep wondering. And the guys, they let it finish. They did. Thank you. Thank you for whoever wrote this. Get this fucking artifact out of the way now. Like, let's just make it a key, because that's what it is, and go from here. So when it finishes, they think it's going to kill Chief. It doesn't. All of his levels come back to normal, and he starts to have like, I want to call it like, I don't know. He envisions himself on the Halo. Yeah. Like, he's on Halo now.
It's almost like the projections from the scene with Dr. Halsey, where the Admiral and Commander Keyes were watching.
Yeah. It's like the artifact has like projected them to the location or to a Halo, so they can see it, but they're not actually there. It's just there in their minds. So they're just seeing everything in their heads. Kind of like the Matrix, like they've been plugged into the Matrix of Halo, right?
Yeah.
And McKee is there too. So I was fucking stoked, because it shows him like on like a rocky hill with some green grass and shit. And I'm like, first time in the show right there, guys. We've not seen any grass. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
Everything's been desert planets and shit. And I'm like, holy shit, he's on Halo. He's on a Halo. I'm like hollering at the TV and the camera pans and turns just enough. And you see the Halo ring going up behind him. I'm like, fuck yes, he's on a Halo. That I just wanted to see a Halo fucking finally. Even though they're not on it, I didn't care. I was like, yes, like they did it right. It looks like a Halo. It's done right. The terrain looked right. And the camera pans, you see McKee, and she's there too. And there's a cringy part that I'm just not looking forward to, where Chief walks up to her and he kind of like rubs her cheek. And I'm like, no, like fucking no, dude. Like that. He is a military guy, first and foremost, who needs to be out there for humanity and save the world. He is not out looking for love.
No.
And there's been some other podcasts I've been listening to, and they're like, guys are making these cringy like thoughts of what's going to happen next. And that's one of them. And I'm not down for that at all. I'm not down for it at all. So how did you feel about the whole overall Halo? And everything?
I agree. The Halo was awesome. I was like, finally, like something that's actually in Halo. Like, I agree. The part with he and McKee was very cringy. And I was like, please do not go down this path. Please do not. If they go down this path, you're going to have one pissed off Heather next episode, because no.
Yeah. I'll have to talk her down.
No. Like, anyway.
Yeah. I'm not going to be happy about it either. What I think is going to happen. Okay.
You are much more forgiving.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's because like you love Halo so much that you just want it to be good. And I'm just like, you know what? This could be so much better. Why is this sucking ass right now? Like,
yes, I am. I am more forgiving. That is for sure. But I am that forward thinker. And I'm also like, I have completely separated in my mind game and TV show like that. There's no overlap in my head at all. And I just have to accept it. Even though there's parts I want, I can still pick it apart and be that guy, but I'm just not going to be. I'm along for the ride now.
You just have me for that.
Yeah, that's right. You guys will hear the other side of it from Heather. But the one thing I think is going to happen from all this is, and I could be completely wrong because this bitch is really evil, this McKee, but I feel like she's been brainwashed until now. I think that since she sees the Halo and they're there and she sees the connection with Chief, I almost feel like, and I hope anyway, too, that she's dead by the end of the season. and she is not completely gone evil. Like she does like a Batman villain and she kind of comes back good a little before she's done for. And Chief kind of has a connection with her and whatnot. And maybe we allow him to use that connection as kind of fuel to, keep going. I'm giving the liberties to the show right there that I would be okay if they did that, but she's got to be dead by the end of the season. I do not like this McKee character at all. I don't want her in season 2. I want her to pilot the Pelican to the Halo and be dead when he walks up to the captain's pit or whatever, or the cockpit, to see who's all still alive, and she's gone, done. And he's a little bit heartbroken maybe, but that's it. Like he'll never love again now. And we get the tough Master Chief that we've all been seeing. And that's what I want. But I feel like it's either going to be far worse than what I just said. And it's not going to be identical to what I just said. But yeah, it's either going to be one or the other. Like I'll accept that much of it, but otherwise it's got to be just kill her off, be done with her. There was never any connection. Chief wakes up from his little vision thing that he has here, and he's like, no, there's no way I'm going to accept her as part of the UNSC or whatever. He has the same attitude as like, she's not getting near the artifact. I would like that more.
I want that to stay.
Yeah.
If she starts to lean towards good, I'm going to just be like, what was the point? Like she needs to be bad the entire time. Like she needs to be the bad guy. Like, honestly, right now, yes, the Covenant is bad, but we do not have a bad guy in the show.
I don't want her to be the bad guy. Okay.
I mean, in this season, not like the whole show. Like, yes, she had better be dead by the end of this season.
That's what I'm saying. And I'm super cool.
And I want him to be the one to do it. I want to pick up an energy sword and just right through her.
Yeah. And then like hold her up in the air with her through it.
And be like, look at her.
Yeah. I'm down for it. But I don't think I'm going to get that. So I don't even think about it because they've given me so many of the opposite. I feel my brain goes completely the opposite to expect to not be disappointed.
I feel like it would be very lazy on them to make her go good. Like, I just feel like that's a cop-out. She needs to be bad. She's bad.
If she's going to be bad, kill her though.
Yes,
like if you're going to keep her good, let her die. That's the thing I'm worried about.
Either way, I want her dead.
Either way, I want her dead too. I already said that. I do not want her alive in season 2.
No.
Period. I don't know if she's a big enough actress to where they would keep her alive, or she's got a contract for some crap or whatever. I don't look into that sort of stuff because it kind of ruins shows for me when I do that. So yeah, I don't want her alive. I want her dead. I would love for her just to be this evil bitch and like trying to backstab Chief. Yes. And this is what I would love, guys. I'm going to say what I love, what I want. Okay. Not like what I just said is what I think expectation wise is going to happen based off what the show has told me. But what I want is I want her to be the most evil bitch that he's ever ran into. And I want him to fucking destroy her in like the worst way possible. They were blowing legs off in the first episode. So blow her fucking arm off with her fucking finger that turns into a knife, and watch her bleed the fuck out. And like him have like some badass one-liner that he says to her or something like that. Like,
that'd be awesome.
I can't think of anything cool off the cuff right now, but something like that. And then we are focused now on the main bad, which is going to be, I think, Atriox, because he was confirmed. Mm-hmm. He was the brute that was at the end of Halo or episode 5, and he's in Halo Infinite. That would be badass because then we can get some time travel involved, and that's so up my fucking alley. And that's what I want. I want her dead in a brutal way at the end by Chief. And I want him to be like, I trust nobody. But in that same,
Cortana.
There you go. Exactly what I was going to say. But in that same like breath, Cortana has proven herself so trustworthy that he sees the two differences between like a fucking distrusting bitch and like an awesome AI that does nothing but try to help him. And you get that full on connection. And I honestly want that like episode 8. Like I want that her dead episode 8, Cortana and Chief are a team again. Halsey's doing whatever they do for Halsey. And we land on Halo in 9 and we get some Halo action at the end of the season to hook you, not just giving you a cliffhanger, but hook you for season 2. That's what I want.
That would be awesome.
There's a lot of cool things that could happen for sure. And I think we talk about it almost every episode.
I think so too.
But that's what we're doing. That's what we want.
That's the point.
And that's what could happen in our brains.
We tell you what happens and what we want to happen.
Exactly. And I will say, polar opposites this episode, guys. There is no agreeing in this one. No. I liked this episode. It did.
It was just
yeah, it wasn't but I still love you for it. You know, I think, you know, it's not divorce material or anything. Okay, so you know what I mean? But yeah, I liked it. It was well written. It was really well acted. Paramount Plus did a little bit better job not fucking up constantly. Still screwed up, but still. It was a good episode. Like, for an episode that was not full of action, it was a good episode. You know, it was full of information. And, you know, just like I like to say with Loud Thumbs, you know, if we're not either entertaining or informative, why are you listening? Why are you watching? You know, I want to be one or the other of those, both if I can be, hopefully both. But this was informative. It was an informative episode, and there wasn't a whole lot about it that was fun at all, but it really sets up like a lot. It closed a lot of doors, and it only really opened the door to Halo. So get us fucking there. Like, let us get to Halo episode 7. That would be great. That would be great. But I don't think they're going to do that, honestly. No. But I did. I liked it a lot. I thought it was just a much better overall episode of just filling you in, like just one of those driver episodes, like I call them, you know. I think it really drove things to a point where it needed to, and it worked. Like, it really worked. And they kept a lot of canon in this episode, which I was really happy about. You know, and eventually, I kind of already mentioned this in a previous episode, but they even mentioned telling Vanek and Riz about everything that's happened. And I feel like we're going to have 4 Spartans on the same page soon. I feel like that could happen next episode, because they're going to have to fill them in at some point. They're still on Halsey's side, but they don't even know Halsey's had this stuff happen to her when that all goes down. They're just in there having a conversation with Kai at that point in the episode. So I feel like we're going to have 4 Spartans all like ready to go do their thing. And it would be really cool, and I'm totally for it, if we land on Halo with 4 Spartans. That would be new.
That would be awesome.
That would be different, but that would be awesome. That would be awesome. So, and it has that potential for it. Does it also have the potential to kill the other 3 Spartans and harden Chief even more? Yep. But that's okay, because what do we want? We want that hard Chief. Damn right. We want Chief hard, riddled,
in his suit with his helmet on, killing the Covenant.
Yep.
Please and thank you.
They have showed, and I think this is what makes it rough for you too, and you have to tell me, but in this series so far, they have showed now, after this episode, that they can tell story and that they can do the Halo action right, because they've already showed us episode 1 and episode 5. Yeah. And both of those were very good Halo action video game stuff. Yes. Right?
Yes.
So that we know now, guys, our expectations are at a point where we know you can do both.
So why aren't you?
Start doing both. That's where, yes. As she says, why aren't you? Start doing both. Episode 7, and 7 was a very lucky number in the Halo Bungie series.
Yeah.
117, 343 is 7 forwards and backwards. Yeah. So that's actually a thing. You guys can Google it and check it out on your own, but there's actually a big deal with the number 7 in Halo and Bungie and everything with the series. So episode 7, I've got some hopes for it. So we'll see. I'm excited to see where they go for now. But you know what I'm actually thinking is going to happen is it's going to suck. So they got it.
I'll be prepared either way.
She's ready. But they've got this thing of doing the opposite of what we kind of expect each episode.
Good and bad.
Good and bad. Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. I have a feeling we're going to see a little bit more of Chief and McKee, and I don't want that.
I want her to be dead.
Yeah. energies were through the face. We haven't seen that
Ooh,
in anything,
that
right?
would be a good one.
Like sideways through the mouth?
No, just like up through the chin. So she's like
through the
hangs
brain.
there
through
and
the brain.
dangles.
Oh, okay. I was thinking straightforward, but you're thinking like up through the chin.
Yeah, that way he can just hold her up.
Still has the hold up effect.
Yeah, hold up effect.
Yeah. What if an elite did that to her? Would that be as satisfying?
Maybe. Well, no, not as satisfying. It would still be satisfying.
Yeah. That'd be cool though. I'm down for it. I'm down for it.
I just want her dead.
Yeah, she needs to die, guys. So the name of this episode is Halo episode number 6.
Please kill McKee.
McKee dead. All right. Well, that was it. It was a fun one. I liked the episode. Heather didn't like it near as much.
It was okay.
You kind of see why. You get it. Like you see the gist of the two of us. She has her hopes for Halo because she's seen some badass stuff. I've played Halo.
Yes.
And, you know what?
I know how badass it could be. I've seen him in his suit. I've seen him kill.
I know. Hopefully we get there. That's all I can say. I want to get there in a hurry. Give us something more next week. We know you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it will not be a good one from me.
Well, we'll know pretty quickly next episode. All right, well, hey, that's been another Loud Thumbs limited series this episode, and hopefully you guys are enjoying these. We appreciate you guys out there liking and subscribing and checking out YouTube and following us. It's been awesome. So we're still growing the show, and it's been fun. We're seeing some good numbers on these. They've been really fun to do. So hopefully you guys are still enjoying them, and we'll still have a few to go till we pick whatever other limited series we'll do after that. And tune in coming up Monday because we're going to have The Batman. So we'll be talking about that one. A lot of Batman talk in that episode. So hopefully you guys enjoy that one as well. But that's it. So thank you again, Heather, for joining.
No problem.
Always fun.
Yeah.
And until next time, stay loud,